everyone, and welcome to Rising Women in HR. I'm your host, Jen Trum. So, Rising Women in HR is a series that I created where each week I bring on a woman who is in human resources who has grown in her career. She's at a place where she's pushed through a lot of doubt and insecurities and now is able to tell the tale. And so the conversations we have talk about the journey that they've taken and how they've been able to grow, and many times how they're still growing by pushing through their comfort zone so they can show up for themselves with more confidence and fulfillment. So today is episode number 10. I'm so excited for today's episode. So today's episode is extra special for me. So Jenitta is today's guest, and she and I have known each other for a few months now. She was actually my very first paid client under my Alive to Thrive program. And so we have a great conversation around her growth and the doubts that she had, especially when starting work as an HR director for an international organization, and how far she's come over the past few months in terms of really recognizing that a lot of her fears and insecurities were really just stories that what she was telling. So as she started to push through them, she started to become just a more confident version of herself. So with that, I would love to introduce the interview to you, and I will come back on at the end and just talk about what were some of the takeaways and things that really stood out to me, and then I'll have a couple of announcements. All right, so enjoy. Well, I am so excited for this interview. I've been waiting for this for a few weeks now. So, Janita, thank you so much for being here. Would you mind introducing yourself, a little bit about you, and kind of what brings you here today?
Okay, well, sure. Well, Jen, thanks for having me. I'm excited about this interview as well. My name is Janita Averitt, and I am an HR director for a company. I live here in Virginia, and I have two kids. I have a 4-year-old little girl, and I have an 11-year-old son. I've been in the HR world for about 16 years now, probably. It's been a pretty long time. It's been a long journey. And I like HR. I love being able to help people. And I've grown so much throughout that time and learned so much. I started off actually in recruiting.
Mm.
So that was my first thing that kind of brought me to HR. I always wanted to be in recruiting. So I started off there, started off with a large corporation. Actually, I started off at the front desk making visitor badges for a large corporation,
Mm.
then moved into an administrative role. And then soon after that, moved into a marketing role. And then that's when I really got into HR. I started off recruiting and got promoted up to an HR supervisor with the organization. So,
Nice.
yes.
Very good. So, what I love about you, Janita, is we have a history together. We've kind of grown in
Mhm.
terms of friendship, really. So, would you mind sharing how you and I first became acquainted?
Sure. Well, it started off with, so like I said, I work for this company, I had lived in Atlanta, is where I worked for the company, and they offered this package, a severance package. So I jumped out on faith and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take this package. I'm gonna see what happens. I'm gonna leave this company after being there for 14 years. So it was nerve-wracking
Oh
and
my.
not having a backup plan. Don't know what I'm gonna do if I'll ever find a job. And this was during the pandemic. So we sold our
Not
house.
a great
It
thing,
was
no.
crazy. No, we didn't know, the beginning of the pandemic, and nobody knew,
Yeah.
what was going to happen. So, like I said, we sold our house and packed up and moved everything and with no job and happened to land back home in Virginia where my family is now. And so, like I said, I didn't have a job. I started interviewing and finally found a job with a great organization. I really do like them. it's different. So it's very night and day. So I came from a very structured environment and a company with a lot of history and experience to a company that's a little bit smaller and less structured.
Yeah.
But I like the challenge. So, but it had its ups and downs. So during this time, I took on this big role as an HR director with this new organization. And I came to a point where I needed guidance, and I felt lost in some cases. I didn't feel confident in some of the in the work that I was doing and producing at this new organization. And I just needed guidance and comfort and advice. And so I was on Facebook and I found this amazing Facebook group that Jen has, and I started off by just sending questions to her, and I read some of her posts, and they were so inspiring. And she would actually respond. I mean, I think of people who have these Facebook groups in, you send them, questions and comments and stuff, and they don't always respond right away or anything like that. But Jen was very responsive, and she had, you had inspiring words to say, and that kind of helped me get through my day. So that's how we initially met, was through her Facebook page. So then, I started telling her some of the things I had. I had doubts and insecurities about me being able to perform this job, and being nervous and scared and new in this job and this company in this industry. The culture was totally different. So I reached out to Jen, and she's like, maybe we can have a 30-minute call, and I can see, if, I can help you. And I did. And from there, the rest was history. I mean, you've helped me tremendously get through a lot of difficult days where I was struggling and didn't know where to turn and who to go to. And you always have your family to talk to, but it's always good to talk to somebody, number one, who has been there before, which is you. So you've been in this industry, so you know what it's like. And number two, kind of has the same feeling. So, we can kind of bounce off a lot of stuff together, some ideas and doubts and, things that I had about myself. So it was really helpful. But yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. What's such a gift to me is to be able to connect with women and connect with you and really be able to understand what you're going through. Like there's a tricky employee relations issue, and we're like talking
Mm-hmm.
through it, and
Yes.
without going into confidentials, but it's very, like, I think, helpful to be able to have that type of understanding around what you
Mm-hmm.
do, so that
Yes.
way I can
Yes.
really meet you where you are. So
And it's
yeah.
extremely helpful because being in this new role, me being an HR director, I report directly to the president. So I don't have anybody else that I can really talk to about these situations. And of course, like you said, we do talk anonymously about situations, but still, it's good to have somebody that I can talk to and, has been through this before, because I can't talk to him about certain situations about this. So, and I need the guidance and help from other HR professionals like yourself.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your current role a little bit, because you definitely are in a very interesting situation in terms of the ownership of the company and the challenges that brings up and kind of the mind drama around that. Would you mind
Yes.
kind of sharing with us, like, about the current role and some of these challenges, and like how you've worked through some of that mind drama?
Oh, that's a lot. It is a lot. It definitely is a lot of mind drama. I like that word, mind drama.
Yeah.
It is a lot of that going on. Like I said, again, for me, the biggest challenge was adjusting to the culture. So
Mm,
the culture was very different than what I was used to in my previous job. And like I said, I was there for 14 years. So that was kind of instilled in me being in that corporate environment. And I learned so much from there. There's so many people that I could thank. I had mentors there and people that helped me along the way. And I can look back now and say, wow, like, I can see how they really did help me, get to where I am now.
mhm.
But some of the challenges, for example, the company is a Switzerland-based company. So I report dotted line to a manager that's in Switzerland. So the culture, of course, is different. So trying to match that culture and their ideas to what we do here in America sometimes can be very challenging. And then also, one of the biggest challenges I thought when I first started this role is that I think we desperately need management training. I think that there should be, and that's something that I'm working on as well with some of the other vendors locally here, and then with our training department that's located in the Switzerland area, but trying to get our managers, training and development that they need so that they can provide support to their teams of that nature. So those are some of the biggest challenges. And then also for me, learning, about the business. One of the, um, I think one of the most important things that you need to do on a new job is number one, know the business, and number two, know your people,
Mm.
and know what they do. So you need to know that you can't do everything, but I can call on so and so for this or for that, and that's one of the things that I definitely try to do in this role, and even in my team, my HR team. So knowing who's strong in what area, so I know who I need to reach out to. And so, getting my HR team up to speed too was somewhat challenging based on where they had started, and getting them into to teach me things that I didn't know as well, some of the HR systems, and knowing about the different types of jobs and what people do, their responsibilities, and the makeup of the company, and just kind of understanding the background and the history of the company. So all that can be extremely challenging, being new in this role, in addition to all the everyday chaos that goes on.
and
So,
and still dealing with remnants of COVID, right? We're not done yet.
yes, yes, yes. And that was the most challenge. I was going to say, I forgot all about that. I was onboarded
Oh
like
man.
basically virtually. So I
Yeah.
remember taking this job, and the manager that was there before me, and I was like, so, how often you want me to come in the office, or what do you want me to do? He's like, well, or we can just work virtually. And I'm just like, wow, like I had starting a new job, that was so scary to me. Like I didn't know people, I couldn't see people. I was still
Yeah.
working from home and reaching out to people. And sometimes it's harder to get in contact with people when you're not face to face, but you know what I mean? You have to reach out to them through Teams
Totally.
or
Yeah.
video conference calls.
Totally.
So
It's such a different relationship, right? Like,
it
I
is.
think there's something, about that face to face that when that goes away, it's
Mm-hmm.
just more difficult to connect. It's difficult to get
It
really
is.
intimate and that sort of thing. So I think that's just amazing that you've
Mm-hmm.
really kind of worked through that and found a place where you can try to do the best, right? The best you
I've
can.
tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
But meeting more people every day is like I'm always meeting people and certain people. It's funny because I just told somebody that today that I work with, like if I give them my name, they know who I am because it's just me. But they'll come up to me and say, hey, I'm John. And I'm like, John, who? Like, I haven't met you yet. Like, I don't know who you are. So, getting to know people and faces and who they are. So, and they're in different locations too. Most of our people are here in the Virginia area, but we have people, of
Mhm.
course, spread out remotely. And then we have like two other sites as well in the US. So,
Yeah. Oh, wild.
yeah.
So I want to kind of circle back. You were talking about like training, like manager type training. Talk to us a little bit about the kind of training that you really advocate for in terms of like, leadership skills, or what was it that you're really wanting to push for and advocate for?
Well, I would say, yeah, like you said, definitely leadership skills is definitely I think something that is needed, as well as how to manage your people or how to deal with difficult employees, and even on the healthcare side, or knowing what our policies are behind FMLA and short-term disability, those types of things and questions that constantly come up, and how to do, mid-year and annual reviews. Knowing how to have those conversations with your employees and not waiting until you have the mid-year review or the end of the year and say, hey, you're not doing so great, but kind of letting them know beforehand. That should not be the first time that they know that they're not performing well. So those types of things I think are important, that managers should, be well trained in, and how to handle that, even down to something as simple as, knowing how to approve time cards and putting in your time correctly, and watching those types of things, making sure they're not stealing time and that kind of stuff. So, down to like the basics of that to, being able to manage employees and work with the ones who may be a little bit more difficult or, how to administer a PIP, a performance, a performance improvement plan for the employee and the next steps that happen after that, that PIP is done and being able to explain that to the employee.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of coaching, right? Like
Yeah.
it sounds
Yeah.
like because I think that that's something that's so needed in so many workplaces, and so I think that's
Mhm.
so exciting to see, to say, hey, we really need to help these managers learn how to have these conversations, learn how to like really kind of lean in terms of, working
Mhm.
with their employees and not just kind of penalizing them
Right,
whenever
right.
something goes wrong, to like really engage with them and want to like see them succeed. So I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
that's so great.
Yes, I agree. And like I said, I mean, I think that, and that's not all of the managers or anything like that. I just think that it's something, that could be done even on an annual basis as a refresher for some people who, been in a manager role for a while, and of course for our new managers. And I mean, I think it's a good career development opportunity for several people they're looking to move into manager roles as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it is something that you could kind of see in terms of kind of their growth trajectory, right? I mean, I think that's
Hmm.
fantastic.
Right, right.
So let's talk about your growth trajectory. Like, what do you envision in terms of your future? Are you hoping to grow within the company you're at? Do you see kind of different, goals in your future?
Wow. Well, I do. And what I can say is, so like I said, I've been with this company for a year and maybe like 7 months now. So I have already seen somewhat growth, and which is good. When I first came in this role, I was, like I said, I was going crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to learn this job, and it's just too much, and I can't get this. I started questioning myself, doubting myself, like, is this really the right job for me? Can I do this? Why did they pick me? And how did they pick me instead of saying why not? Why didn't they? Why couldn't
Yeah.
they? So, and I mean, now I feel like I've somewhat kind of got my rhythm a little bit. I think I kind of talked to you about this, so I see some growth. But I mean, there's still so much more that needs to be done, on my end. I still so much more I need to learn, and I just want to continue to grow and learn more about the business. I want to be able to make a significant impact within the organization. There's, like I said, there's this programs I want to implement, and I want to, I want to showcase other things within the business. Like I said, like this management training program. Also, we're working on now. I just wrote out the employee engagement survey, and looking forward to being able to showcase the results of this to the employees and let them know, the temperature of the organization and how well we're doing, and how people feel. And from that also, when you do these employee engagement surveys, of course, you have to have some results. So you can't just do the survey and say these are the results, but you also have to do some action behind that.
Right.
So looking at the results and then determine, okay, so what can we do based off of these results? And it's interesting because, some of the feedback from the results is that people think that they would like more career development opportunities. So that goes back to what I was suggesting is that definitely more management training and development opportunities as well. So, but yeah, I guess like my future, like I said, is just continue to grow and to make a impact on the business where I can, and just continue to grow and teach my team and coach my team. I just want to share as much information with them as well, because I've seen tremendous growth within my group as well.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. Like I can't even begin to say how proud I am of you. And
Oh, thank
it's
you.
so incredible to see your growth since you and I first met. And so you were actually the first paid participant, the first paid client in my Alive to Thrive program. So I would love for you to share just a little bit about your experience, what drove you to want to do the program, and just I'd love to know just from your words.
Well, like I said in the beginning, I was just like in this place where I needed guidance and help. And so that's what, like I said, I turned to you initially and we had a 30-minute call. And from there, I just automatically knew, I was like, after talking to you, that, I had made, I've made the best decision to go through with the program. And through the program, I learned so much. And I remember talking to you in the beginning, and like I said, again, I had doubts about me being in this position. And I remember you said, don't do anything until after this 6 weeks is over. He's like, don't move, don't do anything, don't apply for any jobs, just wait till you
Just
finish the
hold
program.
on.
Right. Hold your brakes, pump your brakes. So, I mean, and I think that, that was really good advice. And, it did. It helped me a lot. And you helped me, think about more about my thinking and being more aware of, negative thinking and thinking that I'm not good enough and thinking, we talked about that whole imposter syndrome thing and, thinking you're having doubts and having that fear that, that people will find out that you're this person that you really think that you're this fraud that you think that you are. So I just, I think that you've helped me give me certain tips on, how to shift my thinking to a more positive, outlook and, being more aware of those thoughts when they come into your minds and, just thinking about all those things that, that we talked about in those conversations and, how I can, and I've been more aware and I try to think. And again, I think that not only has this helped me professionally, but also personally. So even at home and, talk to my kids and, family and members and stuff like that, it has helped me tremendously, on the personal side as well as, shifting my thinking and thinking more before, I actually say, like this is thinking negative. I try to flip it into like a positive, idea or comment or something like that. So like I said, it has helped tremendously.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Like it's been an honor. Like I think what ended up being like my first client into Alive to Thrive ended up being like so much more
It
because
is.
I grew and you got to
Mhm.
experience it. So
Good.
it
So
was
we both grew together.
yeah, so it was really amazing that process, like to have, this program that, ultimately is going to have, groups of people, but this first round was you and I.
It was, and I, you know what? I was like, that was just like a blessing in disguise because I know when we first came on, he's like, well, it's just gonna be me and you, and I was just like, oh, and I do better in smaller settings anyway, so that really did help. I was like, okay, so we can really have one-on-one connections, and I think that that helped a lot too, and I can bounce off ideas and stuff and everything, and like you said, I mean, I'm glad that I was able to help you grow as well. So I
Yeah.
think it was a
No, it
win-win.
it worked out the way it was supposed to. It's just, it's so amazing how things work out that way. And I'm
Yes.
so happy to have been a part of your journey and, so
Oh, thank
grateful
you.
to you for mine as well. So you like took a really cool trip while we were working through the program. I would love for you to share because you had said something about growing personally. And when you came back from that trip, I was like, Janita. So, share a little bit about that trip and some of the ways that you kind of surprised yourself.
Oh my gosh, I definitely surprised myself. So my trip to Aruba, and I am like scary Mary. I am no daredevil. I don't do scary things if it doesn't look right. I'm not doing it. Like that's not me. I don't do those kind of things. And I don't know how to swim, number one. So
Right.
I'm really, really nervous. And so, it was a group of us. We went to Aruba and where we stayed in this house across the street. I kept seeing people who were parasailing, and I just see them, in the sky, and I'm like, they're floating. It looks so fun and relaxing. And, I'm like, oh, I want to try that and just see what it's like. It just looks relaxing. And so me and one of the other ladies that was on the trip with me, and she can't swim either. She's just as scary Mary as me.
Oh no.
So we're both scary Mary going down to this parasailing thing. And we're like, what are we thinking? We get on the boat and they take us out in the middle of the ocean. I'm already nervous on the boat. I haven't even got on the parachute
Right.
yet. I'm like, I'm feeling sick. I'm not going to be able to do it. You're going further in the ocean and I can't swim. So we're nervous and screaming and yelling. And so, one thing led to another. They put our life jackets on and, we're still talking to them. They're trying to tell us, what you need to do, hang on. And we're talking to them. And next thing you know, they're just lifting us up in the sky. Like, and we're
You're
just up in the
flying.
air, I'm flying, and we're just kicking and screaming. And it was, oh my gosh, it was the scariest thing I have ever done in my whole entire life.
But so
I said I would
brave.
never do it again. And afterwards I was like, okay, we both were kind of like we high-fived each other. We were proud of ourselves and we did it. And it was an amazing experience. And like I said, I think again, this is a prime example of what this program has done. It has built up my confidence level, has made me feel a little bit more comfortable in certain areas where I normally wouldn't be. And I don't know, maybe it's an age thing too, getting older. I just that's what it is too. And I'm just, more daring. I don't know. It's like, whatever.
I think it's a
But
little bit of
yeah,
growth. Once
I
we
think
work
it
through that
is.
mind drama, we're like, what in the world was I so afraid of?
Right. What was I
Like,
doing? Right.
what,
And it wasn't that bad. It was,
yeah,
like I said, it was bad at the time. But, I look back now and I'm like, well, I made it back. So, and I think
yeah,
about like everybody, people do this stuff every day and they make it. So
right.
why not me? Why can't I be that person? But it was extremely scary. So
Well, you can live to tell the tale.
yes, I can tell the tell. And I mean, even people, like I said, again, if they know me, they know that I'm not that type of person. Like, what? And so I'm glad like I got the pictures to show and everything to prove because otherwise they would not believe that I did that.
Yeah. Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, it was pretty scary and nerve-wracking.
Well, Janita, I have one last question for you. The last question I have is if I'm watching this and I'm a woman in HR and see you and I'm like, wow, like that is so amazing. She's pushed through so much. What advice would you give to me?
Well, I would say number one, if you struggle with like me, like I struggle with confidence and being in this new role and doubting myself, I would say find ways to celebrate your successes and even find a coach like me. I found a coach or a mentor. I always ask, for example, I have asked somebody before, like I feel like they could they could learn more from having a mentor, somebody at guidance, somebody to guide them. You know what I mean? You need somebody to kind of bounce ideas off sometimes, and even if it's not a coach, it could be a family member. But sometimes you need somebody else outside of your family that can honestly tell you and give you the real feedback and advice that you need. But also, like I said, don't be so hard on yourself either. Like you have to, give yourself like to celebrate those successes, even if they're those small wins, whatever it is, find a way to celebrate them and just don't be so hard on yourself and know that you're doing the best that you can. I think that's one of the biggest things I learned from you too is showing up as your best self. And I always tell myself that now, like I gotta show up as my best self and it is what it is. Like you can't do everything, you can't know everything. So do what you can do, and you'll have to figure the rest out later. But as long as you know that you've done the best that you can, that's all that really matters. And like I said, again, just don't be hard on yourself.
My heart. I love that so much. Thank you for that. That is like so beautiful and so important to remember all of it, like
Mhm.
I think we are so hard on ourselves and we have to find a way to have more grace with ourselves because it's the only way, it's
I agree.
yeah,
Especially as women, like we're hard on ourselves as, women, mothers, you know what I mean? And being in these roles. And, I think you said initially, like, especially typically, male dominant roles. And sometimes we're the only woman in the room and it's difficult. And
yeah,
you know what I mean? we have to, get out there and, stand up and stand for what we believe. And it's hard being the only woman voice in the room sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier about imposter syndrome. I think that's where that really comes in, right? Like, I think
Hmm.
this fear that we have around like speaking up and being honest and being who we truly are, we then get in our heads about it because, there's this structure and this hierarchy and like
Yes,
all of this.
yes.
And so we start to like question ourselves. And so I really appreciated you saying that because I'm like, oh, it is. It's
It
so hard to say no.
is.
You know what? Like, I
It
don't have to
is.
tell myself that story that, this is a problem. I can really try to do my best and,
Uh-huh.
put myself out there. And, it is what it is because, like I'm here. I'm going to
Hmm.
represent the best I can.
The best you can, and that's all you can do. So, like I said, you got to go easy on yourself, and I mean, pat yourself on the back, when you can. And again, I think you need a team of people around you too, positive people that can, constantly keep your spirits lifted up, and whatever it is that you need to hear, you need those
Yeah.
people around you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I know you have a husband like that, and I'm very blessed to also have a husband like that. I think
I
that is,
do.
a true gift when we can have
Yes.
the people closest to us be our biggest cheerleaders, right?
Yes, yes, we do. We definitely need our biggest cheerleaders, and I'm your biggest cheerleader, so.
Oh, I'm yours too. Oh my gosh, that's I love it. Well, Janita, thank you so much for joining me today and for this like incredible interview because I am just inspired by the journey that you've had over the past few months that I've known
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, no, I truly mean that. And I just can't wait for more that's in our future because I think you and we've got some things up our sleeve.
And that's the scary part. I'm scared. I think we talk about that too. The scary
Me
part.
too. Me too. I think we're supposed to be scared, right? Like if you think about it,
Yes,
like when we're wanting to like grow and get better, it's going to get a little scary, but that's what you're saying. You
yes,
got to have a tribe. You got to have the people who are like, no, Janita, you got this. Like we've
yes.
got this together. And so that I think is what is so important because otherwise we start to spin out and we start
Hmm.
to question ourselves. So yeah,
We do.
you've got a partner in me. I've got a partner in you.
We
We got this.
do. We got this. We're gonna get through this.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Stop recording. Wow. That was such a good interview. I had goosebumps a couple of times listening to that conversation back again, and I'm so grateful. Thank you again so much, Janita. I know that there were little nerves, and I think for all of us, they're always there. But to hear your story and see how you've been learning to really step up and show up for yourself more, I think is just truly an inspiration. So, one of the things I wanted to do is I took down some notes during the conversation and I wanted to kind of go back through some of the things that I took away from it and really highlight maybe some of the things that I think each of us can take away from it. So, the first thing that really was obvious is Janita talked about how much she doubted herself, especially when she came into a new role, that was an international organization and just really started to get in her own head around whether or not she'd be able to make a difference. And learning to trust in herself, learning how to believe in herself is how she's now able to say that she believes that she wants to make a significant difference or significant impact, I think is the way that she put it, which is just so exciting to see because I am confident that from the first time that Janita and I ever met to now, I don't think she would have believed in her potential to make a significant impact. So that was pretty exciting to hear. She talked about really now wanting to get more involved in manager training and being very intentional around what is trained to the managers, making sure that they learn how to become better leaders, how to become better listeners, and how to become better at coaching. I think that's so important. I think not just for, the workplace, but I think it helps in, our lives to be able to become better at what we do and how we show up. So I think that's really, beautiful, because I think the belief that Janita sees to do this type of manager training to really help managers with those soft skills is also something that I think has been building in her over the past few months that we've been working together. So I wanted to say that there were four things at the end of our conversation that Janita had said that she would recommend to others who want to push through their own comfort zone and continue to grow. The first one is, don't be so hard on yourself. Right. So we've all heard the saying, I'm my worst critic, I'm my worst critic. Woo. And yet, we, many of us, do not take the time to really actively work on changing that, to work on changing the thoughts and the stories and the beliefs that cause us to be our worst critic. So recognizing that, and recognizing how much more empowered you are than you maybe ever realize, I think is one of the first things that we do in coaching, is say, whoa, whoa, whoa. These are the stories and beliefs maybe that you've been telling yourself for however many years. But are they the stories and beliefs, one, that are true, and two, that you want to continue to keep telling about yourself? I didn't think so. So let's start working on actively changing these stories and beliefs. So I love that. Don't be so hard on yourself. It is something that you can work on changing. Number two, find a mentor or a coach. So important that we have people in our lives who can really help lift us up, who believe in us, believe in our potential to be able to grow and evolve to the person that we are growing and evolving into, and also be able to hold us accountable, to recognize that sometimes we need a little push. We need that person to be able to say, no, 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 you got this, let's get back up, let's keep going. And a mentor and a coach is really, I think, one of the just amazing ways that you can get that. And when it comes to the investment in it, so many people think, oh, this is something that's just, costs so much money. And is it worth the money? You have to decide. You have to decide whether or not it is worth the money to you. But I can say that when you really put in the work to believe in yourself, to build confidence, to recognize that you are worthy, you're enough, you're you're going to see that you are able to recoup that investment very quickly. When it comes to speaking up for yourself, when it comes to maybe putting up boundaries that before you didn't put up, in terms of your time and your energy, when it comes to asking for what you deserve, to recognize your value in what you contribute in this world, and be able to be confident for asking for what you deserve. So these are all things that I think the more that you learn how to believe in yourself, the more you can shift that self-talk from being critical to being empowering. Number three is show up as your best self, right? Like, show up as your best self. It sounds so simple, but it can be so hard, because there are so many days where we get up and we are just not feeling like our best self. So how can we show up for our best self when we're not feeling our best? And that, I think, is where meditation can come in. I think, yoga, I think there's so many different ways that we can learn the skills to be able to recognize where our mindset is and where we want it to go, and then be intentional about that, about where we want it to go. Because just because we wake up and we're feeling kind of crappy doesn't mean that we can't gain control and be able to shift it. So it's important for us to recognize that. It's important to say, hey, at any time, I can show up as my best self, not just Tuesdays, not just Thursdays, any day. And that I think shift in mindset can be significant when it comes to moving in the direction that we most want to go in our lives. The last one is do your best. I think that's the same as really show up as your best self. So I don't think I need to go into that too much more, but do your best. Just do your best. It's one of the 4 agreements. I know anyone who listens to me before knows that my favorite book is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and do your best is one of them. Be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. Something else, and then don't do your best. So finally, I want to say that at the end of our conversation, we talked about how far both Janita and I have come throughout our time together. And Janita said something that I think was just so cool when she said it, because she said, I'm scared. Like, that's scary to think that I'm continuing to grow and what's next. And I just want to offer to everyone out there that, of course, it's going to be scary, right? When we are in the process of growing and becoming better as people, this process is going to be uncomfortable. This process is going to be a bit scary. And, I fully and truly believe now that fear of success is a very real thing, because our success depends on going to a place we've never been before, to getting through what we've been used to now come into something new and different. And of course, that's going to be uncomfortable. Right? Of course, that could bring up some fears or insecurities. So, when they say that we have imposter syndrome. So often I hear imposter syndrome and I hear it from a place that it's this negative thing, like it's a problem. And I've really come to believe that imposter syndrome it's not a problem. The only time we make imposter syndrome a problem is when we decide or when we choose to think that it's a problem. Because imposter syndrome is just the discomfort that we're going to feel as we continue to grow, as we continue to move towards that person we most want to be. So, feeling not comfortable in our own skin, feeling that discomfort that inevitably is going to be there as we continue to evolve, is absolutely fine. It should be welcomed. It should be a part of the journey. It should be, something that's embraced as part of the journey. So, if you are like me and struggle sometimes with seeing that you are comfortable as you move along your journey, that you struggle with that imposter syndrome because you feel like you need to already be good enough, that you need to be like all of these things as you progress along your journey. If that sounds like you, which is definitely like me, then I would love to offer to you a free webinar called How to Break the Curse of Imposter Syndrome in 5 Steps. Because in this webinar, I help you understand that imposter syndrome is really just about not believing in ourselves, where we're at as we are and who we are in our own skin yet. And when we can recognize that, we can learn the skills that will allow us to be okay with it and to continue to want to move forward anyway. So click on the link in the comments to get yourself a copy of this 25-minute webinar. It definitely is something that if you've ever struggled with not feeling comfortable as you are, is going to give you some tips that I believe will really help you out on your journey. So thank you so much for joining me today and the 10th episode of Rising Women in HR. Truly appreciate your time. I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. All right, bye now.